Hi, hey, hello, and welcome to another Don't Wash the Jersey, Colts win a preseason game again episode of The Educated Fan. My name is Brandon, and I am joined here by your co-host, my best friend, Andrew Moore. Buddy, it wasn't pretty, but the Colts got another W in preseason, which, you know, at the end of the day, who much gives a shit? But we got a lot to talk about that game. The quarterback play, the defensive line play, and some other things. But how's your weekend, bud?
Weekend was pretty busy. I was in a golf outing yesterday morning before the game. Me and my cousin had a golf outing. Didn't do great, didn't do terrible. Ended up middle in the pack. And honestly, for not golfing for 2 months, we were pretty happy with that. And then got to see my niece and nephew for a little bit, and then cover the game. And it was a pretty wild. I wouldn't say wild game, but definitely some interesting nuggets to take from the game that we're going to talk about here. How's your week been?
My week's fine. I'm full-fledged in training now with my new job. I do nothing but pick on my coworkers the whole time, so that's fun. But yeah, it's fine. My weekend was good. Watching the Colts game yesterday, watching some UFC fights yesterday. It was a good time. Real quick, just wanted to give a little shout out to our girl Kay. These are the cups that she made us, and she's got a Facebook page called Every Cup Begins with K, with a K in cup and a K in K, K-A-Y. But yeah, she makes other stuff. You can see on the screen here some American flag type cups. Up here we got a Notre Dame cup. That's really cool. So she makes all sorts of stuff. She loves doing it. So if you go to her Facebook page, Every Cup Begins with K, make sure to let her know we sent you over if you buy something from her. But yeah, thanks a lot, Kay. Now let's talk preseason game, Andrew. Right off the top here, quarterbacks. Tough day for the quarterbacks. I think Ellinger gave Jacob Eason a prime opportunity to seal the deal, end this QB competition, and then Jacob Eason shits the bed. What did you think about the quarterbacks this weekend?
Yeah, it was a struggle. Ellinger got the start, and he played about a quarter and a half. There were some things he did well. I mean, obviously the mobility aspect, but it wasn't a good day for either quarterback. We start out with Ellinger. I think we'll talk about that. I mean, he had 2 more interceptions. That makes 3 in 2 games. And when Frank Reich constantly talks about winning the turnover battle, that's not winning football right there. And yeah, I know he's a young quarterback and he's going to be making some mistakes, but when you're going up against these tough defenses that the Colts have to face early in the season, that's not going to work. Right. And in the first one, I don't know, it looked like it was tipped at the line of scrimmage. Frank Reich today in his statement said it wasn't. Frank Reich said it wasn't when he looked at the tape. He said it was all on Ellinger on that one. So again, whether it was or wasn't, it was a high ball for Paris Campbell, gets tipped and intercepted, take it back for a touchdown. And then on his second one, from the original look, it looked like he was trying to force the ball into Ashton Doolin. Again, the ball gets tipped up in the air, intercepted. Frank Reich today said that there was a miscommunication on that play, and that's partially why that ball was intercepted, and it just wasn't in a good spot. But overall for Sam Ellinger, it wasn't a great outing. And besides, I mean, he was finding Zach Pascal early, and I think Zach Pascal had a good chunk of his yardage there. But in that quarter and a half, he was only 8 for 13 for 70 yards with those 2 interceptions. And then there were some drives where he was able to get the Colts into scoring territory for 2 field goals. But you got to convert those from 3 points into 6 points. That's one of the main things that the Colts have focused on this offseason, because it seemed like that was a problem last year. So from Sam Ellinger, he had an opportunity playing with the starters, playing with a higher caliber group of teammates around him to really step up and really feed off of them. And he really just didn't yesterday.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not all on him, you know, I mean, or on, let me start over. it's not all about just the better players around him too. He was playing better defenders than he's used to playing in game situations anyway. He's playing a tough ass defense when it comes to practice every day. But it was an opportunity for him to show that it wasn't just him against second and third stringers that was able to perform well. He had an opportunity against some first string guys in the Vikings, which is going to be a good defense again. I think they're a really well coached defense, so I think they're good, but they're probably in their more vanilla coverages, plain base defenses and whatnot. So the way he looked was not great. I'll tell you right now, I don't care what Frank Reich says. That ball was tipped by a defender at the line of scrimmage. They showed a replay. It was clear as day. I mean, there's no question about it. That ball, the first interception was tipped, but he's putting himself in a position throwing the football where a defensive lineman, if they get up and tip it, then that's partially on him. You know what I mean? Offensive linemen can't hold down the arms of the defenders. And then the second one, I just thought it was, whether that was the first read or not, he wasn't open. And he was getting mauled. The receiver was getting mauled. He wasn't open, so it wasn't a smart throw. But we expected, I kind of expected this out of Sam Ehlinger. It was what followed when Jacob Eason came in that I did not expect. I expected Jacob Eason to kind of carve up this Vikings second and third string guys, and he kind of struggled too. What did you think about Jacob Eason's performance? Because he could have closed the door. He could have closed the door on this QB competition yesterday, and he did not.
Eason's main problem was just his accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he looked very inaccurate. And that was one of the knocks on him is he going to be able to shore up his accuracy? And from the very start, it was just plain and simple, it was bad. I mean, well, first of all, that first pass to Kylan Granson's sitting 6 yards away.
Yeah.
And Eason rockets it to him like he's across the field. No need for that. Take some velocity off that ball. It's a 6-yard throw. Should Granson have caught it? Maybe, probably, but still, Eason's got to help him out with that. And then there was another time where he throws it deep. He had, I think it was either Jordan Thomas or Farrod Green, or maybe even Ashton Doolin deep, and he just overthrew him. Multiple times where he threw behind Kylan Granson or Mike Strawn, and he started out 2 for 8. Now, as the game went on, it seemed like he got a little bit more comfortable and he ended up finishing a little bit better. But that inaccuracy to start, it really killed multiple drives for the Colts. And again, he wasn't going up against the top flight competition. Right. So that is kind of worrisome when you're going up against the starting caliber team in the starters of the Seattle Seahawks, which the defense is still going to be pretty good, I would say. Maybe not the Seattle defense of old, but it's still going to be a tough task for Jacob Eason possibly to take on. And when you're throwing it behind your receivers, you're not helping your targets out like that. You're bound to struggles, and he knows that. I mean, he said after the game that for the most part it was pitch and catch, and he just didn't execute. So he knows what he's got to do, and he's just got to look at the film. And this is kind of what my piece coming out tomorrow is going to be on is kind of what these guys need to look at in their film study to really correct those mistakes, because they've got one more opportunity in live game action to prove what they can do. Now, is it going to come down to this final game? No, it's going to be the full body of work. And if Frank Reich was just basing it off of what they were going to do against the Detroit Lions next week, that'd be a terrible decision. It needs to be the entire body of work. These 3 preseason games, all the practices, how they're doing in the meeting rooms, different things like that. But these guys really need to focus on what they did wrong. Sam Ehlinger throwing just careless passes, not making the correct reads. Jacob Eason throwing behind and not accurately, kind of keeping the velocity at a better point in throwing it short versus throwing it across the field. Those are the things that I really want to see from the quarterbacks moving forward, and what I want to see them do next week against Detroit when they have their final opportunity to prove themselves in game action.
And Eason got a little better as the game went on, just a little more. Mm-hmm. He seemed real off rhythm when he first came in. And then after halftime,
seems like he just settled down the more reps he had. Yeah.
Yeah. So The thing is, though, like, we kept hearing good things about him all week, too. And maybe if we could put together a good week of practice this week and then translate that to the game, who knows? But, in reverse of what you said about Sam Ehlinger, not really getting it done with the better players around him, Eason didn't have the guys he was 100% used to playing with out there with him at that point either. He didn't have Michael Pittman Jr. out there with him as much. I think Mike Strawn and Desmond Patman were both out there a lot, but not much Paris Campbell or Zach Pascal. So it's hard to say. I mean, like I said, he settled down in the second half, but I was kind of hoping for more out of him after a week of good practice. So who knows? Maybe he puts both together this week. But at this point, I still think we sit in a spot where he hasn't done anything worse than Sam has to put him in a position where I don't think he deserves to be the starter. I still think Sam Ehlinger, the athlete that he is, I still think I would really love to see him used even once Carson Wentz is back. It's going to be an interesting week. Anything else on QBs?
Yeah, I think as we go into this final week, I would still say Eason is the favorite to win the job, because just what we've seen out of him, like I said, the full body of work, not only in the games but in practices, he's performed better. Ehlinger hasn't been as efficient in practice as well, and I think your ceiling is higher with Jacob Eason. So if you're going to have the two guys that are very close together in what you've seen, you're going to go with the guy that gives you not only a better chance to win but has the higher ceiling, and that's Jacob Eason with his great arm, with his prototypical style of body for a quarterback position, and just the way that he has been conducting himself this offseason. Now, hopefully it's not the case, and we don't. This is all a moot point, because we're going to talk about some developments in what's happening with Carson Wentz here in a bit. But I would say as of right now, Jacob Eason is still the favorite to win the quarterback competition between him and Sam Ehlinger.
I did forget one thing, Andrew. Those of us who had to watch on Game Pass had the unfortunate lack of options when it came to the commentating, and we had the Vikings local commentators, which was miserable, by the way, but even they noticed, like, this guy's ripping this ball. I mean, he needs to take some of this off. That guy was 6 yards away, and I'm like, that was kind of the first time I really noticed it. I know you've mentioned it in the past, but like, I was seeing, I'm like, oh yeah, but hey, didn't Brett Favre have, a real bad habit of rocking balls even when the receivers were real close?
He did, but he learned to take some off of it. And if Eason can't do that, then he's gonna be in trouble.
That's just got to be a thing that they can work on. You know what I mean? I feel like that's a solvable thing. Like you just said, Brett Favre started taking some off. There's no reason Jacob can't figure it out. All right, moving along here. Pass rush looked real good. Kwity Paye, first game, first sack. What did you think about the defensive line? What did you think about the other side of the pass rush as well?
Kwity Paye did really well. Kwity Paye, he came in, he didn't play very much, but he didn't really need to. He set up his guy multiple times. He really used that speed rush that we've been hearing so much about, got right around the offensive tackle and sacked Kirk Cousins on a drive that really Minnesota was making some hay on. And that really stalled the drive, because immediately after the sack, you get a tackle for loss by Kari Willis, a long third down, and the Vikings are forced to punt after they had quite a few runs that got them good field position. So I was really excited what I saw from Kwity Paye, but this pass rush in general really had their way with the Vikings offensive line yesterday. I mean, Ben Banegu's season is in full effect. This dude was a force yesterday. I legit lost count of how many times he had quarterback pressures or quarterback hurries, things of that nature. It just seemed like he lived in the backfield, and we've been hearing all off season, or all training camp really, about Ben Banegu, how he is making play after play after play. And it's like, okay, that's great, because at last year he wasn't even making those plays in practice. So that was step number one. But step number two is now you need to start showing it in game action. Now, is he going up against the starting offensive tackles for the Vikings? No, but we'd be even more worried if he wasn't doing anything against the backup linemen, and he's dominating these backup linemen. So that's a very encouraging sign. Let's see, Al-Qadim Muhammad and Andrew Brown combined for half a sack each. Isaac Rochelle was in the backfield. Chris Williams was getting good pressure up the middle. This entire offensive or defensive line for the Indianapolis Colts yesterday really took off and really had their way and really was a force yesterday. And it's good to see what they're doing in practice and the success they're having there translate onto the field in live game action.
Yeah, what I loved about Kwity, it wasn't just that sack, but I noticed, because that was, aside from the quarterbacks, I was watching Kwity Paye. That was my, tell her to get out of there. I see you poking your eyes over there. She walking in the room. Danny, damn it.
She's not walking in the room, but she's putting something under the door. Now she's running away. So
anyway, I was watching Kwity Paye.
My beautiful fiance.
Was she giving you lunch?
Ahead.
She's sending you lunch under the door?
She wrote me a note under the door. It says she wants ice cream. So maybe we'll go get ice cream after this.
There you go.
So we'll see.
Pardon the interruption. So I was watching for Kwity Paye. And not only did he get that sack, but I was watching him on other plays. He's already demanding a double team. I mean, they were putting two guys on him, and he was swimming through one and bum rushing the other one. I mean, just knocking guys around. Almost got another sack right after the first one. So yeah, he played really well. I'm liking what we're seeing out of Banagoo and Teray. They're looking good. But yeah, Kwity Paye, I think, was probably. There's three things we're real happy about in this game. I think he takes the number one spot.
I would say so, because when you see that I mean, that's just, we're so excited to see what Kwity Paye can do and finally have a dominant edge rusher on this Indianapolis Colts team, where we haven't had since Freeney and Mathis. And the thing is too, with Kwity Paye, the way he was used at Michigan, he didn't have the sack numbers, but the Colts are using him in a completely different manner. Instead of having line up directly over the tackle, they're putting him way outside so he can get a good burst on when the ball is snapped, and then really transfer his speed to power, and that's how he's getting around these offensive linemen. It's working beautifully. And then just the way the coaches rave about how coachable he is, and he never makes the same mistake twice. Anytime they tell him something, it's only a few times, and he's got it down because of how intelligent of a player he is. Very, very excited for what Kwity Paye can bring to this team.
Left tackle, Andrew, big area of concern until Eric Fisher's back, but maybe a little glimmer of light in the backup department, or I guess starting department, come week one. Julian Davenport. Not bad. Better game.
The guy that I've been trashing all offseason as being the worst out of these three tackles. And hey, he's been a pleasant surprise, and he's playing good ball. I mean, I'm not going to say he's playing phenomenal ball, but yesterday he showed that he can probably be a suitable replacement, or suitable substitute, I should say, until Eric Fisher is back healthy. By the way, Eric Fisher has been seen doing more and more drills on the sideline and after practice. So Eric Fisher, I don't think he's going to be out a full 6 weeks and be on the PUP list. I could see Eric Fisher coming back a lot sooner than people think. So just remember that. But until then, it seems like Julian Davenport has really kind of taken the reins of this left tackle spot. He's the one that's been getting most of the reps at left tackle with the first team during practice. And then he played pretty well yesterday. He stayed at left tackle. Then Will Holden came in at left tackle, still had his struggles. Julian Davenport ended up coming back in, and they slid Will Holden over to left guard. And then Sam Tevy, what a disappointment Sam Tevy has been. Yeah. The Colts signed him. He was a starter for the Chargers last year at left tackle. So the Colts thought he would be a suitable guy to be that substitute.
Fun fact,
for Fisher.
The Chargers offensive line sucks.
He's been garbage. I mean, that's putting it just in plain terms.
Trash is the kids.
They're not even really
days.
playing him. they're not even playing him at left tackle, whether it's practice or the game. He's over at right tackle now. And obviously when we've got Braden Smith in there, I mean, he's not going to see the field unless Braden Smith gets injured. So I'd put Tevye a distant third right now. And that's very disappointing for a guy that the Colts thought would be someone that would take over that starting role even before we signed Eric Fisher.
Right.
So yeah, I would say Davenport's number 1, Holden 2, and then Tevye a distant 3 at this point.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But Davenport being the best of the 3 does crack me up. Just because you're right. I mean, you were really trashing that guy. I didn't even think about that before we started this conversation. That's hilarious.
Yeah, and I'll admit when I'm wrong, and he's definitely proved me wrong. His past tape, when I watched it, it really worried me because especially in the run game, and yesterday he did struggle in the run game, but in pass protection, he is the better of the 3, and he's certainly shown that. So, I mean, if he can keep it up, fantastic. I mean, I'm not going to say that this one-off automatically makes me feel better about the left tackle situation, but it does give me a little bit of hope moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think about, I don't remember who I heard mention this, but what do you think about the fact that, I mean, that left tackle position is going to be a crutch, but how can we use tight ends over on that left side to help out with the blocking? Is that something you predict that will be happening a lot early in the season?
I definitely think so. Until Eric Fisher can come back, you'll probably expect to see Jack Doyle or Mo Alley Cox on that left side, at least providing a chip to help out. At this point, Julian Davenport in pass protection, a lot of times you'll see probably the running back go over to that side in case something happens. But Frank Reich's going to scheme it up and try to help Davenport when he can. When Quentin Nelson comes back, obviously that's going to be a big help. But yeah, I think Jack Doyle and Mo Alley Cox will be able to be over there on that left side to provide at least a chip on most plays.
All right, Desmond Patman, buddy. Good showing in the game. Was open more than we saw because the QBs just missed him. A couple times they did try to throw to him and missed him. But he's looking good. And you mentioned this weekend, too, that he was looking good on special teams, which is going to be a big key to that last wide receiver spot. What are you thinking right now?
Patman's looking good, and I was very concerned that Patman wasn't going to make this roster just because Ashton Doolin has such a vital role on special teams. I mean, he's been the gunner on special teams, and for those who don't know, a gunner is when the guys are in punt formation. It's the guys that are on the very outside running down to get the ball,
like in the wide receiver
running
position
down to block. Right, in the wide receiver position on the punt team. So Ashton Doolin's been that for a couple years now, and because he's got such good speed and he has been good at that position. But Desmond Patman was getting some run at gunner yesterday, and he made a good play on special teams. Rigo kicked it deep, and Patman caught it inside the 10-yard line, I think. So that if he can start playing gunner and being a consistent threat and a consistent player and weapon for the Colts at gunner, I mean, this competition is not even going to be close because he's going to take away Ashton Doolin's best role, because Patman has been showing to be one of the favorite wide receivers for the Colts in the preseason. I mean, whether it's short, whether it's those crossing routes, Patman's been able to do it all, and he's been successful doing it. So as long as Patman can keep this up, and if he carves out a role on special teams, because for these wide receivers on the back end of the roster, you got to play special teams. Otherwise, you're not going to make the team. So if he can do that, I don't think this competition will be close. And I think Patman right now, at least, has surpassed Doolin for that final wide receiver spot, for wide receiver 6 on this Colts roster.
Yeah, and in case you missed it, that's because Mike Strawn we've pushed up to number 5. He is number 5 on the depth chart. He's actually only one spot behind T.Y. Hilton on that side of the ball, according to the Colts depth chart online, which, don't get us wrong, guys. I'm in no way saying he takes T.Y. Hilton's job anytime in the near future. But Desmond Patman, dude, we haven't heard. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, we know the Colts really like Desmond Patman and like his potential, because while he played 2 snaps all last year, it wasn't like the Colts were keeping him on the practice squad. They kept him on the active roster so that no other team could poach him off of their team. So the Colts really like Desmond Patman, and he's proven that if you watch Michael Pittman Jr.'s YouTube videos, Patman's been along his side just working his butt off all off season. And he's a quiet guy. He's a guy that really puts in the work, and we're starting to see that on the field.
Yeah, what I was going to say, Andrew, was we didn't hear his name much in camp. We talked about that leading up, but we've heard his name in both of these preseason games. I'd rather shine in a game situation than a practice situation personally. So the days he's definitely needed to show up to be able to take that 6th spot, he has. Another thing, Andrew, that I've been asked by some people since the game, the kicking competition. So basically what I tell them is Eddie Pinheiro is getting a favor done for him by the Colts, where the Colts are allowing him to go out on the field and give other teams proof that he can make field goals, because there's no way he's taking Hot Rod's spot. You agree with that statement?
As of right now, I mean, neither kicker has missed in preseason training camp. They're perfect so far. And as long as they stay perfect, this isn't going to stay a competition. Hot Rod's going to win it. But I do like what the Colts are doing, and they're sending Pinheiro out there for a reason. I really think they're sending him out there and showing the rest of the league that this guy can do it. I mean, you never know. Colts could get an extra 6th or 7th round pick if a team is in a kicking situation when the season starts. They need a reliable kicker. Pinheiro's shown that he's a reliable kicker. You never know. Chris Ballard might be able to work his magic. But yeah, as of right now, I mean, unless something big happens next week where Hot Rod misses all of his kicks, I mean, Blankenship's going to be the kicker for the Colts this year.
Yeah, that was my opinion as well. I told somebody, I was like, I think they're just putting him out there. So, I mean, it's a favor for him too. Other teams are going to see him, whether we get a trade bait and whether we get, speaking of trade bait, Jordan Wilkins, by the way. But anyway, he looked good in last week's game, but okay, yeah, he's going to be the kicker. Let's move along. Colts news. We got some special news, some special today news. This just in. Carson Wentz, Quentin Nelson, and Ryan Kelly are all going to begin practicing this week in a limited capacity. I really want to get a Lucas Oil fans recording, so it's actually our fans cheering when I hit the applause button. But anyway, guys, listen to me. Carson Wentz, Quentin Nelson, and Ryan Kelly could be practicing this week. Not full on, but they're going to be there taking reps.
Yeah, and this is pretty big because while they've been standing there at practice, they haven't been participating. Carson Wentz is ready to get back because even on the place he's practicing his dropbacks, he's out there talking to the quarterbacks between each and every rep. Now, I don't know, when it says Frank Reich said in a limited capacity, I don't know if that means they are going to be taking reps. I don't know if that means they're just going to be participating in individual drills. I'm sure the Colts are going to be cautious on this, but to be tomorrow on Monday will be 3 weeks out since Carson Wentz had surgery. Tuesday will be 3 weeks for Quentin Nelson. For them to be practicing on a limited basis like that, it's pretty incredible. And it just shows not only the work they put in, but it shows how confident and how what him and the Colts think of how the rehab process is going. This is a big week for Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson, because this is really going to be the first time that foot is really stressed, and they put a lot of pressure and see how far they can go on it. So as long as the foot responds well for both of those guys, it really seems, and I would say it's a good bet they play week 1 as long as everything goes well this week and they respond well to the limited work in practice. So it's very encouraging.
It's excellent news. I said something about Ryan Kelly this morning, and then the Carson and Quentin news came later, and I was like, well, shit, I wasn't on top of that one like you were.
Ryan Kelly's he's very close to being 100% back. So I would say he is close. He's obviously closer than Wentz and
he's closer to being back full practice.
Right, absolutely. And that's going to be huge to get the quarterback of the offensive line back in Ryan Kelly.
Yeah. Some roster moves. Most of these cuts came, on the first cut day after preseason game 1. Tight end Graham Adamitis, running back Darius Anderson, defensive end DeMontre Moore, wide receiver Courtney Davis, and cornerback Nick Nelson. got us down to 85 players. Nobody listening to the show probably knows who any of those guys are. Most of the people, let me say, definitely most of the people on this show. I only recognize a couple of those names, so those are just typical camp cuts.
Yeah. Most of the guys, I mean, nothing real surprising here. On Tuesday, the Colts will go down to 80, so 5 more guys will be cut. And then the Tuesday after the Detroit game will be the final cut down, August 31st, where they go to 53.
Right. And then Andrew apparently didn't realize I had already put in notes about Ryan Kelly, just didn't care about my notes. So we'll move it along. All right. Anything else on the Colts, Andrew?
I don't think so. Like I said, last week of camp, last week when it's going to end with that preseason game against Detroit, and I think all eyes really are going to be on the quarterback competition and then on Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson. So really, it's not a preseason or it's not a camp without constant drama for the Indianapolis Colts, it seems.
Yeah, absolutely. It's ridiculous every year. I hope next year is so boring. I hope we are literally clawing for something to talk about next year. All right, AFC South preview. Andrew, thank God this is the last one. I'm not doing this next year. I'm telling you all right now, I'm not doing this next year. I hate doing the research for this.
You were so excited about this, and now you hate it.
I do. I remember that the same thing happened last year. Like, I got like into the third week of this or so. Like, I think it was like the third week, and I was like, oh my God, I remember I don't want to do this anymore. It's just so monotonous and repetitive, and it does get quite boring, especially when I don't much give a shit about any of these teams that I talk about. So AFC South, we're not going to talk about the Colts. Obviously, you guys know we've already talked. I mean, we talk about them enough, right? AFC South faces the AFC East and the NFC West this year. Let's start with the Titans. By the way, my tracker I usually use was all screwed up when I did my research the other day. It wouldn't let me show like players that left the team. It was only the signings, which was really weird. So I did my best. So if you hear or think of any that I don't bring up about guys leaving the team, just chime in. Titans, 11-5 last season, same as the Colts, but they edged us out, won the division. Won't be happening this year, but they did pick up outside linebacker Bud Dupree. They got Danico Autry, cornerback Janoris Jenkins, right tackle Kendall Lamb, and hey, this is just an old Colts name, and I, personally know his sister. Matthias Farley is also now a Tennessee Titan, back in the AFC South for him. Bud Dupree, I think Bud Dupree and Danico Autry are the two names that you see on there and go, oof. Don't love it. I don't love playing these guys 2 times a year.
Yeah, well, Bud Dupree's coming off that ACL injury, so that's going to be interesting to see how he can go this season. But Danico Autry, I mean, yeah, big blow that the Colts couldn't get him back. Hopefully we can replace that with the guys we have. But Danico Autry, when he was signed, said he was going to take it personal and really give it his all. So that's going to be a fun matchup to watch when we play Tennessee for sure. But I mean, I'd still put my money on the Colts offensive line.
Yeah, I don't think players carry the. They don't hold the grudges like they used to back in the day, because there's too many friends on other teams and back on your old team, and I'm not too worried about Danico Autry fucking Carson Wentz up, to be completely honest, but we'll hopefully not. Malcolm Butler's gone, Adam Humphrey's gone, Adoree Jackson gone, and Corey Davis. I think that's in my opinion the biggest loss there is Corey Davis. Basically Julio Jones size, if I'm not mistaken. Had a really good year last year. Couldn't keep him around, but they were willing to pay Julio Jones some money to come play for him. So we'll see what their receiver position does. A.J. Brown, though, absolute animal that we got to worry about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you forgot Jonnu Smith. I mean, the tight end for Tennessee.
I told you I'd forget something.
Jonnu Smith was fantastic, and when you put it together, the numbers that Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith put together was like 110 receptions or something like that. Jeez. It's a big part of their offense. that the Titans lost in both those guys.
Yeah.
And are you going to really count on Julio to take this, to step up and cover the production of both those guys? I don't know. I mean, Julio's great, but I don't know if he can do that.
No, Julio Jones is he's going to go down the field and give you big chunk plays, but he's not going to be catch after catch. He's not even going to be touchdown after touchdown. I mean, there was a couple years ago, he was still scoring outrageous fantasy numbers. It was actually kind of crazy, but he was putting up good fantasy numbers, but hadn't seen the end zone the entire season through like 9 weeks or something. Draft. They had 7 picks. Round 1, pick 22, cornerback Caleb Farley from Virginia Tech, who we talked about coming off an injury. But if he is able to stay healthy, he was probably the best cornerback talent in the draft. Offensive tackle in round 2. I don't remember talking about this guy, Andrew. Dylan Raduns from North Dakota State. We didn't talk about
Dylan Raduns. He's from North Dakota State, big guy, real big guy, and a pretty good athlete. I thought that he was about a second round pick, and I mean I had looked at his tape. It was okay, decent, nothing to get too crazy about. But he was kind of in that same maybe like Sam Cosby, Liam Eichenberg area, that second round talent that you could possibly take a flyer on.
Schedule, they've got 3 primetime games, a bye in week 13, and a Monday Night Football game hosting the Bills on week 6. Love that. They've had kind of a solid rivalry now these last couple of years since Josh Allen's been around. And they have to go to the Rams week 9. I think that'll be a real good football game. That defensive line against Derrick Henry. Huh? Yeah, I'm a fan of that game.
And the Titans' offensive line isn't that good, so they're going to have some struggles.
Notice
I
said the Rams' defensive line against Derrick Henry. I didn't say against the Titans' offensive line.
Right, that's a good point.
So we go from 2 teams in the AFC South, Andrew, at 11-5, and drop all the way down to the Texans 4-12. Our division, we went into last year saying that we thought maybe we were one of the best divisions in football. Did not pan out that way. But I do remember saying, like, I'm telling you, AFC South, 3 real good teams and the Jaguars. Didn't work out that way. They picked up a lot of signings. I mean, just so many. So I went through and I just kind of picked out the best, the most popular names. The most money, though, that they spent, even though not per year, but just the most money they spent on somebody new, was a new punter. They signed a new punter on a 3-year, $8 million deal. They got Tyrod Taylor, Philip Lindsay, and Mark Ingram. I think that's interesting. Their offensive line isn't very good, so it doesn't matter. All-star backup quarterback Jeff Driscoll, and Rex Burkhead. So just some big names, nobody that you're like, oh man, great player, still in the prime of their career. But it'll work. Gone. J.J. Watt's cut. The Watson drama is still going on, obviously. We don't know what's going to happen with him. He probably doesn't play this year anywhere, definitely not there. Am I missing anybody on the gone list, Andrew, that you can think of that matters?
Not Will Fuller. Went to the Dolphins. But yeah, I mean the Texans are in bad shape, and Deshaun Watson, who knows what's going to happen. I agree with you at this point. I don't even know if he'll play a game for anybody this year, not just the Texans. So they're not looking at a fun year. They're really not.
The weird thing is that he's not been put on the commissioner's exempt list or anything yet. Like, the NFL's just shutting up and making the Texans deal with it until they absolutely have to do something about it. I don't think the NFL wants him to get traded. I don't think they want to give people a timeline because I don't think they want him in the news. I think the NFL is like, hey, Texans, do us a favor and try to keep this, as quiet as possible for a while. We don't want to deal with it. The draft. 5 picks. Schedule. They didn't have any first-round picks. I
don't think they had a pick till like the
third round. And I didn't recognize a single name they drafted. So move it along to the schedule. They have 1 primetime game, well-deserved. A bye in week 10, and I don't care to watch any of their football games that don't involve us. Not a single game on there makes it go, ooh, no storyline games, nothing good. Jaguars 1-15 last year. Look at me hitting all 3 transitions this week. Free agency, they pick up Shaquille Griffin, cornerback from Seattle, 3-year, $40 million. That's the twin with all of his extremities, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
That's a
I'm
great
sorry.
way to put it.
I'm sorry. But did you see the video of Madden where his brother, with only one hand, intercepted the football with the arm he doesn't have a hand on and was carrying the football?
I do. I did see that.
Big time mistake by Madden. I mean, they can't change the mechanics of the game for one guy. It's not funny, but I'm sure he saw that video and he probably laughed about it. He's a pretty good sport. I've seen stories done on him and his brother. He's a good guy. He'd laugh too. Safety Rashawn Jenkins from the Chargers, 4-year, $35 million deal. Defensive tackle Roy Robertson Harris. Marvin Jones, good receiver. Marvin Jones just did a fantasy draft, and I don't know if anybody ended up picking him, but he had the most touchdowns on the remaining receivers list that we had, for a good chunk of that draft. Carlos Hyde as well. Anybody on that list, Andrew, make you go, you know what? I'm not so sure I'm going to love playing the Jaguars this year. Free agency.
I really think Marvin Jones is going to be a real asset for Trevor Lawrence, because I mean, you got DJ Chark, you got Laviska Shenault, but there wasn't really that veteran wide receiver in that group. Mm-hmm. In comes Marvin Jones, and Marvin Jones is a professional. I mean, he has success with the Lions, and it just gives a very reliable target and almost like a security blanket for Trevor Lawrence to throw to. And so I think that'll probably be out of all of their offensive sightings. He's probably the best, and then obviously Shaquille Griffin is a pretty good cornerback, and I wouldn't mind if the Colts were looking at him, because I think he's a good zone corner. So I think him opposite of CJ Henderson, that's a pretty good top 2 corners for the. I thought he was
a good character fit for the Colts too. I've heard nothing but good things about those guys. Draft 9 picks, round 1, pick 1. Trevor Lawrence, quarterback out of Clemson. We know. Thanks a lot, Jets. Also, Trevor Lawrence weapons. We talked about this not too long ago. Laviska Shenault came on in the end of the season last year. Almost put us away. Laviska Shenault, I mean, single-handedly was having a game against us the second time we played the Jaguars. So Trevor Lawrence has got no shortage of weapons, especially with pick 25 in the first round. Travis Etienne, running back out of Clemson. So some familiarity there for him. I think it's hilarious that what's his dick? Urban Meyer is their head coach. I think that's hilarious. For Trevor too. I bet that's just funny, because was Urban retired already by the time Trevor came around? It was close. It was right around.
I'm not exactly sure. I know Urban did recruit Trevor though, and knew him very well before this process.
Cornerback Tyson Campbell out of Georgia in round 2. Their schedule, I'm actually shocked by this, but I mean, you just have to laugh at the NFL if they do more than this one primetime game that they got. They also did get a morning game against somebody over in Europe. I can't remember who they're playing. They get a bye week in week 7 at Cincinnati week 4. Andrew, do you know why I picked this game as a notable game? Joe Burrow.
It's because Trevor Lawrence versus Joe Burrow.
Hell yeah. That's a football game I'd like to watch. And then against Miami, week 6, Tua against Trevor Lawrence. Excited about those matchups. That's going to be a lot of fun. Andrew, what's your prediction for the way the AFC South shakes out this year?
Yeah, real quick, just on Trevor Lawrence.
Go ahead.
I mean, the kid's incredible. I mean, and I'm very disappointed that we're going to have to play him twice a year for the next 15 to 20 years. Hopefully the Jaguars just screw up their team and he ends up wanting to leave when his rookie deal is up.
Maybe before his rookie deal is up.
Yeah, you never know. But the way I see it, I mean, it's going to come down to how it was last year. It's going to be a battle between the Colts and the Titans for the AFC South. I think you and I both think that Julio Jones on the Titans, well, it is a big move, and we both respect the hell out of Julio Jones and think he's a phenomenal player. The Titans defense it looks bad. It really does. They've got problems along the offensive line, and I think I've told you this before. Arthur Smith, he was the one that resurrected Ryan Tannehill's career. I think him going to Atlanta, that's going to be a bigger loss than a lot of people think. I think the Colts win the division, then we're going to go Titans. The Jaguars will finish third in Trevor Lawrence's rookie year, and then the dumpster fire in Houston with the Texans will be fourth.
Yeah, I knew we were going to have the same order on that one this year. Unless the Jaguars are the ones that actually scare me a little bit. I don't think they threaten for first, but if I'm the Titans, because listen, we got it locked up. AFC South owned by the Colts. We're lock it up, take it home. Colts are winning the AFC South. If I'm the Titans, I'm a little worried about the Jaguars because I do think that team. Although obviously new coaching this year, they started to kind of figure something out a little bit at the end of the year, especially with their young receivers. Like you said, adding a veteran presence with Marvin Jones to that receiver group, a Trevor Lawrence who is competing for that starting job with I can't even think of his name right now, and it's not even serious. Gardner Minshew. Yeah. And Urban Meyer, I think we'll see. Urban Meyer could stink in the NFL. Could happen. Let's go around to some news around the league, Andrew, and then a little Hard Knocks recap. Seahawks and safety Jamal Adams agreed to a 4-year, $70 million extension, highest paid safety in the league. He's real good at football. Did he show up with a cigar again when he signed his extension, when he went and did interviews?
I'm not sure if he did or not. I know that though it was kind of getting dicey whether the Seahawks and Jamal Adams were going to get this done, but at the end of the day, he's one of the best safeties in the league. He's in the prime of his career, so you're going to have to pay him top dollar. So good for both sides, I guess. And Jamal Adams obviously worthy of that top dollar amount for safeties in the NFL.
Yep. Bears announce rookie offensive tackle Tevin Jenkins is to have this was not on the list, I feel like. Oh yeah, it was. To have back surgery. Could be out for the year. And the Jets defensive end Carl Lawson torn Achilles in practice, out for the year. I'm sick of these torn Achilles.
Been a lot of them.
Sick of them. They're disgustingly terrifying. Your family just had an Achilles situation. Kevin Durant, that's the one I'm thinking that I remember that like you could see it in the replay when it popped. Get me out of here. Not a fan of that Achilles injury, gruesome stuff.
Yeah, and the thing of it's very sad for Carl Lawson too. I mean, we talked about him before free agency. We thought he would have been a great fit with the Colts, an emerging young pass rusher, and he got paid for it by the Jets. And he was probably, all the reports coming out of Jets camp was Carl Lawson was one of their top players and was showing that he deserved that money. And they had really high hopes for him. And just a non-contact thing, Achilles goes down, and then it's just a brutal. It's one of the most brutal injuries you can have for a pass rusher too, just because of all the explosion that they require coming out of the stance and when the snap of the ball happens. So hopefully he makes a full recovery, because he's a good kid and he really deserves to have a good long career in the NFL.
Yeah. All right, Andrew, Hard Knocks. I thought it was a good episode. I enjoyed it. I have come to find out that apparently me and Zeke Elliott have more in common than I ever knew. Dude didn't know how to wrap the presents in episode 1. One of the most relatable things I've ever seen. And then he needed the baby powder on the sideline. Oh my God, was I rolling when he needed the baby powder because his butt was chafing. Dude.
He said my gooch is hurting. That made me crack up. What a great line. But Zeke Elliott is becoming very, very relatable and just humanized
a lot of fun
by this. I mean, you see, I mean, obviously a lot of people hate the Cowboys. I know you're definitely one of them. You really can't stand the Cowboys. But looking at this, I mean, their players, a lot of them seem really down to earth, and a lot of them relatable and fun, and we're really finding that out with Zeke Elliott.
Yeah, he's a lot more fun than I thought. And then the sunflower seeds, Wrap it up, man. Me and Zeke, best pals. Sunflower seeds on the sideline. That was cracking me up. Dak Prescott, though, you mentioned Carson Wentz being out on the field, Andrew, during practice and getting mental reps in and kind of walking through his drops and whatnot. Granted, he's got a shoulder injury right now, not a lower body injury, so he's a little more mobile than Carson is right now. But Dak Prescott's getting those mental reps in. He's on it. He wants to be in the game. He wants to play. I'm pretty sure that everyone on that team hates Mike McCarthy, though.
I was getting that. I mean, I was getting that aura, that feeling too, that it's just there's something about when people are around Mike McCarthy on the Cowboys team. I mean, it's just the way they act isn't it doesn't seem right. Because I mean, you're watching on the Colts sidelines, or you hear when people are mic'd up, Frank Reich going around, and it seems like they genuinely love Frank Reich and really respect it. They love joking around with him. When Mike McCarthy comes and says stuff, I mean, people keep quiet. They don't really look at him. You don't see the camaraderie. It just doesn't feel like he really connects with that team.
And why is all the communication between him and Dak going through like a third person? Like, I feel like they don't talk, they don't communicate. They're not. The head coach and the quarterback should be a lot more meshed, whether it's an offensive coach or not. Mike McCarthy's terrible speech, by the way, for a fucking preseason game too, by the way, terribly unmotivating. None of those guys are sitting there like, are we done? But nobody give a shit. But yeah, why is the head coach not talking to his quarterback? Weird.
I don't know. And because I guess, I mean, we're used to the Colts with Frank Reich being attached and their quarterback being attached to the hip. I mean, you see it with Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz follows Frank Reich around the entire practice. Phillip Rivers was super close. Jacoby Brissett, Andrew Luck. It doesn't matter what quarterback it is. Frank Reich and them are just having a fantastic relationship. And it is very strange to see Mike McCarthy tell somebody to go tell Dak something. But I do want to touch on those mental reps, because I think it's a good experience for people. I mean, they hear quarterbacks taking mental reps, but they might not know what that means. It's not like they're just laying in bed and imagining what's going to happen. So at practice, Dak is watching what's going on. He acts like he's going to read the defense. And then while the play is happening, he scans the field and he decides where he would have thrown the ball. And it just makes them go through that exercise at that live speed in their mind of what they would do, what he would change here, what defense they're rolling in, what cues of the defense going, and it definitely helps. It keeps your mind sharp, so that way when you do start doing those live reps or even those walkthrough reps back on the field, you're still used to that game speed, and that's very, very important for a quarterback.
Yeah, I forget what. Man, he was kind of hard on that backup quarterback last week, though. The week before, I know where he talked about it. He goes, I didn't say shit about you getting in there. He goes, I didn't ask for you to go in.
If you think he was hard, can you imagine seeing a practice of Peyton Manning? That was nothing compared to what Peyton would do.
I just feel like Mike McCarthy isn't just being Mike McCarthy. I think he's being, I'm the Dallas Cowboys head coach. I can't imagine this is the way he acted with the Packers. You know what I mean? I just can't imagine it. So, Micah Parsons, is that linebacker's name? Do you imagine the way he's been acting every time he has to go out of the game, which is hilarious, by the way? Do you imagine that's how Kwity Paye was yesterday? You think it's the same conversation?
Probably not. I mean, I'm sure Kwity Paye wanted to play more, but it almost seems like that's how Darius Leonard would be. Kwity Paye is kind of like the same demeanor as DeForest Buckner, a quiet guy, real calm demeanor on the sidelines. But Micah Parsons remind me just of that Darius Leonard, like always want to be out there, always want to be going, high energy guy. That's what he reminds me of.
It kind of pisses me off, like just thinking about the veteran guys that are like, I don't want to play in the damn preseason, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? It kind of reminds you like, hey, there's guys that still love this game and they want to take every snap they can, even a preseason game. Love that. We have, I can't remember his name now, of course. The one where his mom was at the game. He was a refugee.
Kamara.
Yeah, that poor guy's not going to make the team. Do you know why I know that? Because HBO is making us fall in love with him, and then he's not going to make the team, and we're all going to be so sad.
He was on the practice squad last year, but it was great to see his family. That's the thing I love about. I mean, I've only watched Hard Knocks for a couple seasons, but that's the thing I love about Hard Knocks is finding the backstories of these guys that nobody else knows about, and watching them just slug it through camp and give it their all. And Kamara, I felt so bad that the kid gets a sack, a strip fumble, and it pretty much wins the game, and then they call a false start, which false starts should be able to be declined in the NFL. I think it's absolutely absurd that you can't decline a false start penalty.
Well, it's because a false start, the play is supposed to stop.
This play is supposed to stop, but in the case that it doesn't, I mean, you should be able to decline it. That's stupid. So I thought I'm really liking Kamara, and I hope he makes it. Man, he looks. I mean, his tape doesn't look great. I mean, his practice, he looks very uncoordinated out there.
And then he accidentally
really
hit the
put
QB.
it together.
Actually,
he grazed the quarterback, and they did not like that. You do not get close to the quarterback.
Who touched my fucking quarterback?
You don't get close to the quarterback in practice. No. But I mean, I'm rooting for Kamara. I hope he makes the team.
I mean, the poor guy's getting ragdolled by these offensive linemen that are just so much bigger than him. He finally gets this pass.
He's only about he's only about 230 pounds, so that's like, I mean, Darius Leonard plays at 215, but Darius Leonard's the maniac as well. So
he's also not
it's a little bit different there.
Yeah, it's tough, but it's a good season so far. I think other people, you weren't too impressed with last week's episode. I didn't think it was bad, but I don't know. I enjoyed it. I think for the Cowboys,
like this week.
I think for the Cowboys with Jerry Jones, we're getting a little more back story than I expected. So maybe that's why we view it differently.
Colin Cowherd, after the episode, he was talking this week and he said, "Congratulations to the Cowboys. You guys are boring." And that's a compliment, because boring franchises are the ones that win. So continue to be boring. And I mean, I really like this episode as well, because I think Hard Knocks, at least for me, it's about seeing the behind the scenes stuff and really learning the stuff about the players that we don't normally learn. I mean, like Kamara and his family, seeing Zeke and Dak's demeanor in practice, even talking about CeeDee Lamb, seeing how CeeDee Lamb is absolutely being a monster in training camp practice. So CeeDee Lamb's about to burst on the scene and be a superstar wide receiver. But yeah, that's what I want to see out of Hard Knocks, and that's what we got in this episode. I really enjoyed it.
Yep. All right. The English defensive, was he the D coordinator or defensive line coach?
Defensive line coach. We got to see former Colt Terrell Basham.
Yeah,
it was impersonating him. That was pretty funny.
Hilarious that when he walks in and they were in the middle. Oh my God, everybody's worst nightmare. That dude's a champ though. He took it well. Go follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at @theeducatedfan_. We have been gaining a lot of followers. We have been gaining some more interaction, and we appreciate that. We hope that continues. We hope it increases even. Andrew, anything to say to our lovely followers before we head out?
Yeah, I mean, I greatly appreciate all you guys following along. Like you said, Brandon has been killing it with Instagram, and he's been taking over some of the Twitter. We've been gaining a lot of followers, and hope you guys are enjoying the show, because for 3 weeks from tonight, the Colts are playing the Seattle Seahawks in week 1. So we're about to regular season football, and it's getting real exciting.
That just means I have so much shit to do, because we're moving home that weekend. I just have so much shit to do still. Yeah, guys, Andrew, Sports Illustrated intern now. He's too, focused on his own Twitter to keep up with the Educated Fan one now. I don't think he's tweeted from the Educated Fan in a month. Personally, he just goes on there and retweets his own tweets. Doesn't send you guys any more news. So I'm doing my best to, manage all of our social media, produce this entire show. While Andrew just writes up a quick outline, doesn't work on this show anymore. He's too big time for us now, but who knows? Maybe one day we'll both be big time. All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you listening. We look forward to talking to you guys next week. And until then, God bless you all. God bless football, and go Colts.
Go Colts.
I fucking love football, and I love you guys.